Greetings, it's Ian from RTO here. Welcome to the first quarter final of Battle Royale, where we're trying to find the greatest album of all time according to you, which I affectionately call the Obscurians. So, quarterfinals, and we're going to start with a huge one. It is Quadrophenia from Stevie's Vinyl Cupboard against Mick's Who's Next. Two big Who albums up against each other. They were drawn in the last round of round two, wasn't they? Well, we had a little bit of controversy, but that has now hopefully been fixed. So during the quarterfinals, we're going to look at the stories behind the songs and how the album come together, because they talk about the tracks. There's bits about the tracks, but some don't go into great detail about the tracks. So it's all about the stories about how the album was written and who wrote it and who did this and who did that. Also, we're telling you the new way of voting. Same time, 2 p.m. it opens, but it's a different way of doing it now. So let's have a look at these. So up first, drawn out of the tin by Richard, was Quadrophenia. Now Quadrophenia, of course, is the 6th album by The Who. Now this was released on the 26th of October 1973 by Track Records. It was the group's 3rd rock opera, the previous two being a mini opera, a song, a quick one, and While He's Away in 1966, and then from 1969, the famous Tommy. Now the difference in this one, that Quadrophenia was completely written and composed by Pete Townsend. And as you remember, the original release came with a recording of notes and for journalists that explain the plot. So, what is the plot? And what is this all about? Now, of course, we all know this, but I'll tell you anyway. It centres around a young working class mod called Jimmy. He likes drugs and beach fights, romance, and becomes a fan of The Who after a concert in Brighton. But he is disillusioned with his parents' attitude towards him. Dead-end jobs and an unsuccessful trip to the psychiatrist. He clashes with mum and dad after drugs, decides to throw his scooter, destroy it, and then heads to Brighton on the train. Hence the 5:15. So he discovers Ace the Face, who was the leader of Gone and now has a menial job as a bellboy in a hotel. Everything, it's all going wrong for him. So this is the story. So 1972, let's go look at 1972. One of the least active years for The Who, that obviously achieved so much success with Tommy and touring and Who's Next, which we'll talk about soon. But they were troubled with a suitable follow-up, which always does happen, doesn't it? The group recorded new material with Who's Next collaborator Glyn Johns, including In My Heaven, Love Reign Over Me, and a mini opera called Long Live Rock and Roll Is Dead. The material was considered too derivative of the Who's Next sessions and was abandoned. And it said that Pete said, "I've got to get a new act together. People don't really want to sit down and listen to all our past." And he said he became very frustrated that the group had been able to produce the film of Tommy, a film version or live album, which was another aborted project, and then decided to follow Frank Zappa's idea of producing a musical soundtrack that could be produced a narrative in the same way like a film. So this is, you know, he really got this inspired from that the aborted "Long Live Rock and Roll, Rock Is Dead's theme. So he started writing the material for this album and put unreleased recordings, including joined together, related to keep them from the public eye. In the meantime, John released his second solo album. Roger was working on his solo stuff. Keith Moon was featured in the film That'll Be the Day. So it took a little while to get this off on the ground. So they went into the studio, which they'd built themselves at Ramport Street, Battersea, and they started work on this. And inside said Townsend's friend, bassist Ronnie Lane from the Faces, loaned his mobile studio for the sessions. And there was a little bit of argy-bargy, like there normally is, because Lambert began producing the album but missed recording sessions and generally lacked discipline. By the mid-73, Roger said, "That's it. Lambert, you must go." So then the band recruited engineer Ron Nevinson, who had worked with him before, to assist with all the engineering. So one of the things about Jimmy, he'd got this four-way split personality. So Townsend wrote 4 themes reflecting the 4 members of The Who. These were Bellboy, which is about Keith Moon, Isn't It Me, which is about John, Helpless Dancer, Roger, and Love Rain Over Me, it was a bit about Townsend. There's 2 instrumentals on here as well. The title, Rot on the Rock, contained the 4 themes separately and together. Most of the tracks were recorded separately, and like early albums, it was the first time that I think they'd used synthesizers, which Pete had recorded at home. The only song arranged by the band in the studio is the classic 515. Also, Pete brought a cello and learned to play it and played on it. The diesel trains are actual proper engines, recorded at Goring-on-Thames. And then John Entwistle recorded his bass part for the Real Me on his Gibson Thunderbird. So some really good stuff. What can you say? There's not much else we can say about the Quadrophenia. There was lots, you know, it took a little bit to get going. I think they were, just like when they did Tommy, they were lacking ideas, but they always came up with something to, Pete came up with this. I mean, it became a film, of course, and the rest is history. So good luck, Stevie. I'm sure you'll, in your 5-minute piece tonight, you will add a little bit more to that. So let's look at the contender, which is, of course, the other Who album, the previous album to Quadrophenia, and that is Who's Next, which was released on the 14th of August, 1971. Now, this had developed from the aborted Lifehouse project, which is another conceived rock opera from Pete Townsend, and was supposed to be a follow-up to Tommy. It was cancelled because of its complexity and the conflicts with Kit Lambert, the band's manager. But they salvaged some of the songs without connecting the story elements to release this album. 8 of the 9 songs on this are actually songs from the Lifehouse project, except John Whistle's My Wife. So the Who recorded Who's Next with with Glyn Johns, who had produced Won't Get Fooled Again with the Rolling Stones Mobile and they relocated to Olympic Studios to record and mix the album's remaining songs. They made use of synthesizer on the album, which was very not heard of in 1971, particularly on Who Won't Get Fooled Again, and of course Baba O'Reilly. What else can we say about this wonderful album? So let's have a look at some of the songs. So, at the time the band had started to drift apart, but they decided they had to do something new, or a live album, which they released to fill in the gap, and then they all went back into the studio to do this album. So Pete had already brought a new guitar. Or was given a good new guitar, a Gretsch from guitarist Joe Walsh, and it became the main electric instruments for Who's Next. So we have got some really albums. So let's have a look at the tracks. So the album opened with Baba O'Reilly, which featured piano synthesizer processed on the Lowry organ. It's that lovely. The song's title actually pays homage to Townsend's guru, Metha Baba, and minimalist composer Terry Riley. So he put them together and got this little track. The opening lyrics to the next track, Bargain, I gladly lose me to find you, came from a phrase used by Baba. So it's still got a Meher Baba influence on that. Then we get John's My Wife after an argument with his wife, and all they put some overdub brass instruments on it and recorded in a single half-hour session. So there you go. My Wife was recorded in half an hour. You wouldn't get that today. Pure and Easy, which is a key track from the Lifehouse, did not make the final track selection, but the opening line was included to coda The Song Is Over. So they sort of used little bits of that. Behind Blue Eyes features a 3-part harmony by Daltrey, Townsend and Entwistle, and was written for the main antagonist in the Lifehouse, Jumbo. Keith did not appear on the first half of the track, which was later described as, by Who's biographer, the longest time that Keith Moon was still in his entire lives. The closing track is We Won't Get Fooled Again, was critical of revolutions. Pete explained a revolution is not only a revolution in the long run, but a lot of people are going to get hurt. The song features the Lowry organ fed through the synthesizer, which came from Pete Townsend's original demo, and they sort of hashed it about and got the sound, which is absolutely brilliant. So there we go. There's a little bit of history of both albums. So we'll get them back at both on screen now. This is going to be a tough one, I think, because both are very important albums. So it's now down to the voting. So we have got a new system. Now the only place you'll be able to vote now is go to my page and find the community, and there'll be a little sort of thumbnail with it on, and there is a link. So you click on that link and it'll take you to the poll. And just follow the instructions. It's 1 vote per IP address. If you've got a VPN thing, you can't use that either. So it's just 1 vote, 1 person. So if you've got this inkling to vote twice, you're going to have to go and find somewhere else to do it. But I hope you don't. It's got to be a fair thing. Okay, this is a bit of fun, but it's also a competition. So, but during the live stream, we will put it up. And if I can put some sort of link at the beginning of the live stream, I will. But I know Dave will regular interviews during the live stream It'll also be in the description below as well. It'll be in the description on the live stream blurred as well. It'll open at 2 o'clock and it shuts at midnight next Wednesday, and then next Thursday on the live stream Dave will give us the result. See, even I haven't got control of this. It's all Dave. Keep it to one person. He set up the account. There are going to be some adverts, but just click off them off. You know, if you don't want adverts, we have to pay money, and it's not worth it at the moment. So, good luck to Stevie and Mick. Don't forget, as also, if you win this one, you automatically get an RTO mug for getting to the semi-final. So there's a lot at stake today. Not just a place in the semi-final, but a mug. So good luck, chaps, and get voting from 2 p.m. today. Okay, that's all for this week. Next week, we have got Bridge Over Troubled Water against the Sex Pistols, Never Mind the Doo-Doos. So that'll be an interesting one as well. Okay, I'll be back very shortly for Pick and Mix, and we're going to take a wander down the sidewalk this week. And it is going to be the top 10 singles on the 4th of April 1975. So join me for that later. Bye for now.